Hit. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm going to be going over my latest AK build, which is this KUSA or Kalashnikov USA KP-104 SBR. All right, before I get too much into the video, I do want to point out that this is an empty magazine. This sample for the YouTube police is a 28 round Russian slab side magazine. As you see from the chamber, it is empty. So we do have a safe gun. All right, so for anybody who isn't aware, the KP-104 is based off the real AK-104 or the AK-100 series of rifles. These are different from standard AKM pattern rifles as they are based on the AK-74, not the AK-47. One of the main things here is with the gas block being a 90-degree gas block and the gas system not being shortened, even though it does have a short 12.4 inch barrel. And while Palmetto State Armory, they do offer their AK-104 rifle, it is not a true 104 because it's not based on the AK-100 series, which is the reason why I wanted to go with the KUSA. Even though the KUSA is now defunct, no longer with us, due, just another history lesson on them. They were around since about 2011 as an importer, and then by 2014 they started making their own rifles, and for a better part of 10 years they were really considered a very good brand. American-made AKs are typically never thought very well of, and they were known to make some of the good ones. So going a couple years back, took over some new, I don't know if it was new leadership, but their quality started going down the tubes. They made some questionable decisions in their staffing, which, a lot of things ended up downward spiraling for the company, and they are now out of business. So really, honestly, that was part of the other reason why I wanted to go ahead and get a KP-104, aside from the AK-100 series. Getting something from a company that had gone under. These guys aren't going to be around any longer, so figured I'd go ahead and snatch one up. This one in particular I picked up used on ARFCOM's EEE. Bought it from a gentleman, said he had a little over 1,000 rounds through it. One of the things with KUSA's history is their quality control was spotty. There was guns that had a lot of issues, whether it be with crappy rivets, various different things that most of them were minor for the most part, but they're still, if you're going to spend that much money for a gun, which these are around $1,300, $1,400, you would not want to see those types of things. So buying when used was the better option for me and what I decided to go with. I did think about buying a factory SBR, but I was worried about what I was going to end up getting. So went the used route. Guy sent me some really close-up detailed pictures of the wear patterns and everything on the gun. Not to mention that he had kind of chronicled his time with this on ARFCOM, so let's look back at history of his honest reviews of it. Obviously, you would think that if when somebody's telling you something they're trying to sell, of course they're going to tell you the good things about it. But when you get to look back on their own experiences with it, I felt it painted a little better, more honest picture of it, or at least that's how I'm looking at it. So I ended up wanting to get a 12.5 inch barreled AK because I already have a 16 inch Polish reel. I have an 8.3 inch barreled SAM 7K, and I wanted something that was going to be a bit in between. Anybody that watches my channel knows that I have multiple ARs ranging from 10.3 up to 18, and I do like having those various lengths on them. As this came from the factory, it just came with the black polymer furniture, so the upper and lower handguard does have a folding stock on it, a 5.5 millimeter, something else that's more accurate to the AK-100s, whereas the PSAs have a 4.5 millimeter, along with the some of the Bulgarian arsenals. But it was all black polymer, standard AK grip on there. Also came with this muzzle booster. Really flashy. Anyway, that's how I got it. It came with the pistol, like smooth butt plate on it, but I also picked up the black polymer folding stock, knowing I was going to SBR this. Submitted the SBR when I got this. Actually, it's a couple months ago that I got it now, maybe even a few months ago. That tax stamp got approved in like 4 or 5 days. It was super duper quick. And honestly, I was going to leave it, other than adding a MRO HD, which I had plans for, and mounting that via an RS Regulate mount, and then knowing that I was going to add a weapon light on as well. That was going to be that. But you know, as things typically go with me, I can't leave things well enough alone. So I started ordering additional parts for it. So kind of talking this from the front back, let's talk about the muzzle device. So the guy I bought this from said he was running a Wolverine on it. This does have the 24 by 1.5 left-hand threading on it. He said he was running the Wolverine, didn't have any issues. It was concentric. Bought it, tried using my Huxworks AK 24 by 1.5 millimeter suppressor mount, and it was not square at all. In fact, this was even worse than my Sam 7K was. I'll go drop a picture in there. So off was going again to G&I and get Taylor Pickerel to fix it up for me. One of the things when I sent my Sam 7K, if you watch this video, was that the Huxworks mount, and I don't have it anymore, I ended up selling it. It is, with AKs, you need to use a face mount. So there's no shoulder on an AK to index off of. You want it to index off the front of the barrel. That's why they call them face mounts. Well, with true face mounts, there should be a raised boss inside of it, and I'll drop a picture in of what it should look like. Again, I can't show the Huxworks because I don't have it anymore, but the Huxworks AK mounts do not have that raised boss. It's just completely flat on the inside. And when I set my Sam 7K in, he trued up the barrel and the front sight block. And as soon as he torqued it down, it pulled itself out of alignment, meaning that it's not true face mount. So knew we couldn't go this route. Again, I could have it cut 1/2 by 28, just like I did on my Sam 7K, but I already had the 30 cal 5/8 by 24 mount that came with my Huxworks Flow 762 Ti. So this time I decided to go a little bit different route on that, and I went with a Griffin thread adapter. So this is a female 24 by 1.5 with a male 5/8 by 24. So still had to send that in to get it trued up. He did a little bit of work to the face of the barrel and then also to the end where the shoulder index is here to make sure that it stays nice and true. And the Griffin is truly face mount. Coming back to the weapon light, I already pretty much had an idea that what light I wanted to run on this, and it was going to be the Surefire M640 DFT. I just was unsure of how I was going to mount it because I was going to keep this one traditional, no M-lock, no anything fancy on there. Then I came across the RS Regulate BM1, which clamps around the barrel, as you can see here. Clamps on the barrel and adds a little section of Picatinny rail. And once you do that, you can mount your flash eye on. And just like some of my other AKs, you know, it's positioned, I feel, perfectly where it's not in your way of your firing hand, but you can easily reach over and activate the weapon light via tail cap. No pressure switches needed, no tail caps, anything special like that, or not even a special mount. I was able to actually finally use the Surefire mount that comes with it and not have to spend money to get an extra one. And then, you know, sling options. I am going to go ahead and jump into the sling as you see the QD mount here. This was going to be a challenge for me because I'm a left-handed shooter. So, you know, AKs, they do have a sling mount, or at least an eyelet, which is on the left-hand side of the gun, but they do not have one on the right hand. Well, I was looking for a solution for this. Multiple people brought up these Vickers Tactical or Blue Force gears. I can't remember the model number, but basically what you do is that you can mount this through here, kind of loop it through itself. I got that backwards, sorry. But you could fish this, once you get this looped around, you can fish this through your handguard and it pokes out like so. Really didn't really care for the way that looked, and the other problem that presented is it gets there right where my weapon light was going to be. Even if I were to fish it through forward of the handguard to this spot, it was going to be an issue. So originally, you know, as I sat here and tried to figure this one out, and while my gun was out at G&I getting the threads corrected, I ordered these Clashwood Russian red imported wood stock. So these are wood blanks that were imported from Russia. and then refinished by Kalashwood in this nice red tone. You see upper and lower, and then the 5.5mm folding rear. While I was waiting for that to come, I was thinking about maybe drilling something like back here, because I knew I was going to attach the rear to the existing sling eyelet here via an HK hook. I was going to go ahead and drill another one either here or either here. Wasn't really sure, and you know, I thought I had an idea where I would take an M-LOK QD mount. In this case, I think I bought a BCM, and then on the lugs on the backside where the M-LOKs, you know, would typically lock into an M-LOK slot, I ground those flush on a belt sander, and I figured that I was going to mount them right here. And granted, I didn't have my gun here in front of me, and as I thought it out, I said, oh yeah, there should be empty space back here. I went ahead and drilled 2 holes here for the QD mount. So stupid me, you know, I'm not super familiar with AKs. So anybody who has a lot of familiarity would say, hey, you can't put holes there because your front trunnion is on the backside of that dummy. So basically ended up drilling 2 holes into a very nice handguard set, which from Kalashwood for this model here with the 5.5mm folder was $330 before tax and shipping. So drilled 2 holes in there, and I just couldn't live with that. So I ended up buying another set of Kalashwood Russian red handguard sets. Well, in this case, it was a furniture set that also came with the Russian red wood grip, but it was just going to be a fixed stock for an AKM. And I went that route because it was cheaper. It was $300 before shipping. And I figured that I could turn around and sell that one, you know, with the 2 holes in it. Maybe somebody who's really good with wood and staining can fix it up and have themselves a really nice set of original Russian handguards. So expensive, lesson learned there. So still trying to find a solution. And then I remembered that I had an extra one of these SIG QD Picatinny mounts. I have these on my 11.5 AR and I believe my 14.5. Typically, you know, with an AR, it's got a Picatinny rail up top. I would mount it about right here, and then the sling would attach. And I figured, you know, let me go ahead and give that a shot and see how it works. You can see what it looks like. Obviously, it looks a little bit wonky, but nothing terrible. And regardless of the way it looks, it actually gives me a solution. I know the way that it's being down here and also angled, which you can see that angle there, that you would think the rifle wants to flip over upside down, but that's not really the case. So that works for me. I was really super happy with how that ended up working out. I was at the range today, taking some shots with it and carrying it around. It didn't feel like it was well, that didn't break. I know it doesn't look very strong, but it's made out of steel. Moving back a little bit more, the charging handle. You know, I don't have these. This is the only one I have. Early. Let me backtrack. My Baril and my Sam 7K. I bought charging handles for those, not Sinitco, but other brands, and I didn't end up putting them on. Went ahead and picked up a Sinitco RP1 for this. Anybody who has any familiarity with these or charging handles or curious about them at all, these things will come off over time. It's like no matter how much you Loctite the screws, you have a screw back here and a screw up here, they always want to work themselves off. The real, probably the best fix is for you to take a drill, take your screws out and then drill a hole, a drill start. Something for you that once you do tighten these screws down, there's something for the screw to catch in, similar how you would do it with like a AR-15 gas block. For me, what I did on my Palmetto State Armory AKV, which I also got an RP-104, I used JB Weld 2-part epoxy. Before I put it on, and basically this outer thing is a shell, and you got a molded clamshell in the middle. So you slide those on, you slide over the shell, and then you put the 2 screws in. So I just fill all that with epoxy, stick it on, get it into position, tighten down the screws, and let it sit for a couple days. And I have not had that fly off of my AKV yet through hundreds of rounds. Went through the range today, put a couple hundred rounds through. That didn't come off at all. Moving on to the trigger. I was going to stick with the factory trigger that came in this gun. It really wasn't bad. But you know, after I shot a couple times, I was like, You know, me being an AR guy, I'm really used to having a really nice trigger. Now, an AK trigger, no matter how nice it is, it's never going to be an AR trigger, just due to the design of it. Ultimately, I did end up getting the ALG AKT UL. The UL is probably the lightest that they have. One of the things that I really like about it is how light it is. Now, some people, especially if you're good with factory OEM or OEM, just regular mil serp AK triggers, you're gonna feel that it's like dangerously light. But if you're an AR guy that's used to having a 2.5 pound trigger, 3.5 pound trigger, you're gonna feel right at home. You know, with AK triggers, the way that they break, there's always a little bit of mushiness. It's hardly ever a defined wall, and there's always a lot of creep that comes with it. And if you see here with the AKT UL, a little bit of creep, and then it breaks right there. And then the reset, super short, and it just wants to break again. And like I mentioned, you know, this trigger here, on my trigger scale, on my Wheeler trigger scale, it's about between 2.25 or 2.5, so really super light. So basically, if you get one of these in your AK, just keep your finger away from the trigger until you intend on shooting. Going with the grip, I originally bought a Tango Down AK grip for this. You know, they're pretty popular, kind of based off the US Palm ones. Wanting to kind of stick with the Russian theme, I went ahead and picked up the Zeneko RK3. Very happy with the way that looks overall. As far as optics mounting, I did also buy, knowing I was going to buy an RS Regulate already. The gentleman that I bought this gun from was also selling the optics mount. I don't know why he has number 4 on there, and I just haven't bothered trying to clean it up. This is RS Regulate AK302M. And then along with that, what I went with here, knowing that I was going to get an MRO, similar like I have on my Sam 7K. In this case, I ended up going with the MRO HD. Picked this one off ARFCOM as well. It was used, but it was really like new. Got a hell of a deal on it. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, like $450 or something like that. Super cheap. I didn't want it sitting low enough to co-witness the optic, or I'm sorry, the iron sights, just like on my Sam 7K. I already had the Trichicon QD mount for it, so I went with the Picatinny upper, just like I did on my Sam 7K, and then mounted it up here. I really like the sight picture on that. Anybody who's not familiar with the MRO HD, it actually has a circle or a dot reticle instead of a slash like the typical MRO. It's a lot more crisp, and you can either have a circle dot like a Neotech or just the dot. Again, yeah, I'm definitely aware of the weaknesses of these optics, but in my mind, MROs and AKs just go together like peanut butter and jelly. All right, so for shooting impressions. So I did take this out once before I sent it out to have the barrel work done by G&I. When I did, it was just pretty much all factory, including this muzzle booster. I think that's what it's called anyways, this conical type unit here. And one of the things that I noticed when I shot it back then was this thing was definitely recoiled a lot more harshly than even my Sam 7K with its 8.3 inch barrel. And that was even before I added the KNS piston to it. This thing here definitely produces a lot of muzzle flash, which I'll drop a picture in. Very flashy. And then from what I understand, and you know, again, I'm no AK expert, what these do is increase carrier travel. But they boost the velocity, or boost the action, so it makes it more reliable. So after asking some questions on Reddit and some of the groups, basically was told, yeah, that's going to it's going to make it feel like it has more recoil. But I already knew I was sending it off anyway, and I thought that maybe I was just a little bit spoiled by having brakes on here and shooting suppressed. So not a big deal, but like I said, if you get one of these, or you get a PSA AK that comes with one of these, I feel it is going to be a little bit harsher recoiling. But a smooth shooter, after getting it back today and shooting it for the first time, since I was able to put my suppressor mount, the brake, along with my can on it. One of the things that I'm still kind of questioning at this point is whether I want to go with a KNS adjustable piston like I did with my Baril, like I did with my Sam 7K and my Galil Ace 556. When you look at the ejection pattern on this, or the distance that it throws the empty casings, and I'll drop a video in. See how far these empties get thrown. About this general area right here. It really doesn't throw them that far at all. So I'm not sure if it would be a benefit. In a little bit of Googling that I did, what I've gathered is that KUSA did a pretty good job of not over-gassing the crap out of their guns. Knowing me, I'll probably do it anyway. I'll go drop the coin on it, give it a shot, see if it makes it a little bit more softer recoiling. As far as the trigger goes, you know, the UL, first time I've ever had an AKT UL, though I did just also buy one for my SAM 7K. I just have not installed it yet. I've had AKT ELs in the past. Currently I have one in my AKV, currently have one in my Galil Ace, and had one once before in my Arsenal SLR 106F. You know what, I haven't really shot these side by side, but just feeling them side by side, I can tell you a little bit of differences. So first off, between the EL and the UL, as you see, the UL has this bare steel colored, while as the ALG has been, I think, Parkerized. Same trigger shape with the lightning bow, but as you'll notice with the UL, the little bit amount of creep that you get in there, a little bit of play. See if I can really catch it on the camera well. Creep, a little bit of creep, and then break. Really short, and then the reset. Right there. Now with the EL, not only is the trigger pull just a little bit heavier, it's about 3.25 pounds. There's definitely more play to take up, not much, but you can notice it. And then the reset, not quite as crisp, not quite as fast, not quite as short, but still an excellent trigger. But being that I had never tried the UL before, I went ahead and wanted to give it a shot. So as I mentioned, liked enough that I went ahead and picked one up for my SAM 7K. Even though I was previously happy with that trigger, again, being an AR guy and being used to a nice Geisley trigger, man, it is hard to get used to AK triggers just because they have a longer pull and reset. Even as good as the UL is, it's still not as good as like an SSAE, or even like, and you know, of course I like SSPs for a single stage, but the SD3G or S3G, the S3G I do have in my 11.5, and you know, really that's what, to me, an S3G feels a lot like an AK trigger. Lastly, getting on to velocity. So it was definitely very curious of how a 12.4 inch barrel would be. You know, one of my previously posted videos, I did a velocity comparison where I chronoed some various loads out of my 8.3 inch and then my 16 inch. And, you know, I was very surprised to see that when you take an AK round 7.62 by 3.9 and you put it in a barrel that's almost half of a full size, you know, full length 16 inch AK barrel, that you're really only losing, I think it was like 375 feet per second. So really not as much as you might think. So took the chrono out today. Go ahead and drop some video in there. All right, to start off, we got the Wolf Military Classic 124 grain hollow point. 2288, 2304, 2309, 2285, 2284. All right, now I have 5 rounds of the Wolf Black Box 122 grain hollow point. 2368, 2316, 2312, 2353, 2290. All right, so now I've put my can on. I'll be shooting the Wolf Military Classic 124 grain hollow point. See the differences in velocity with no can. 2311, 2321, 2286, 2291, 2321. And you see this time around, I only had two different types of ammo with me, the Wolf Military Classic 124 grain hollow point and the Wolf Black Box 122 grain hollow point. And, you know, shooting those out of a 12.4 inch barrel, I was averaging with the Wolf Military Classic 124 grain. It was about 2,294 feet per second out of my 5-shot group. Whereas the Wolf Black Box 122 grain hollow point was averaged out at 2,328 feet per second. So very, very similar. Also, you know, so in comparison to the 16 and 8.3, when I ran that test using Wolf Military Classic out of a 16-inch barrel, that ran at 2,424 feet per second. So the difference between a 16 and a 12.4 was 130 feet per second, obviously with the 16-inch barrel being faster. Now with the SAM 7K in its 8.3-inch barrel, shooting the same Wolf Military Classic, that averaged 2,047 feet per second. So the difference there, going from a 12.4 down to an 8.3, was a 247 foot per second difference. So, you know, going from a 16 to a 12.4, not losing a ton, 130 feet per second, but going from 12.4 down to 8.3, you're losing 247. So a really big jump going from 12.4 to 8.3. And remember, overall, going from a 16 to an 8.3, you only lost about 365, 375. So pretty surprised with that. So I guess basically, in my opinion, you know, again, just like an AR, 12.4 is probably a very well-rounded between length and velocity, like the best barrel length that you can get for an AK, in my opinion. That's what I like. Something else that I did is that I went ahead and put my suppressor on there, my Huxworks Flow 762 Ti, and ran some velocity testing on it. And overall, with that group, shooting the Wolf Military Classic 124 grade, my 5-shot average was 2,306. And I mentioned that because when I made my first velocity comparison video on my ARs, I got a lot of feedback on running my suppressor on there and how much it was going to be affecting velocity, so I wanted to check that out. So again, 2,306 feet per second suppressed. How is that different from unsuppressed? Well, unsuppressed ran at 2,294. So with the can on there, with my gun, with this ammo, it was a 12 foot per second difference with the faster velocity going with the suppressor on there. Is that close enough to say maybe it could be a type of variance in between the different ammo? I kind of think so. I don't know if the can really made a difference, but you can be the judge on that. All right, so that about wraps up this video. So in summary, the Kalashnikov USA KP-104, great rifle, great shooter. Really like it a lot. If you can find one out there that's a good example of one that doesn't have any of the QC issues, I would say go ahead and pick one up. You know, based on, you know, there's rumors out there whether somebody's going to buy them out or not, and that's maybe still yet to be seen. But I know that as of just recently, you know, this being August 10th, 2024, as of last week, their website was officially taken down. If you try going on to any of their links, you'll get the 404 page not found error. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gone forever, but it's not a very good sign, I feel anyway. But if I went out there in the wild and you want to get your hands on one, it's a good example of just a great gun. You know, I think that while they were making good guns and the good examples they had, they were all known to be pretty great. But overall length is, you know, being the 12.4. If you're willing to go the SBR route, great option for an AK, just like an AR-15, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please take a minute to hit the like and subscribe button, share the video as you would like. Definitely helps us out. Really appreciate all the viewers that I've been getting as it make it closer to 3,000, which, you know, not a lot in YouTube world, but I'm just a regular dude. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope it maybe helped you out. Have a good one. See you in the next one.